Hey guys, once again here bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so I wanted to make another video about this guy right here, the warrior in black. It's funny because there's been a bit of discussion in the comments. Obviously I assumed from what I know from Heroes that this guy is Bardock, right? But somebody mentioned in the comments of one of the earlier videos that apparently V-Jump around the time that Heroes, like the anime, was on, apparently confirmed that this is actually Goku, and that when we see the warrior in black Bardock, like especially when he fights in the anime and is Super Saiyan 3 and then Super Saiyan 4, he does have the bandana on. And then even Prof, who of course is one of the lore experts for Heroes for our little community, mentioned that actually, as far as we can tell, because of the categories that he's on, we actually have no way to really know whether he's Goku or Bardock, because he's on Goku Family. He's also on Bond of Parent and Child, and he's a super class, which is kind of weird for it to have been the Bardock, right? Because he's on the on Aos's team. I don't know whether they would make them all extreme just because of that, but obviously the female warrior in black is an extreme unit. And obviously if this was Bardock, in theory he should have like storied figures as one of his categories potentially, which he doesn't. So because of the categories that he has, like he could literally be Goku or Bardock with this set of categories, which is interesting. So I don't really know, but either way, warrior in black. I wanted to make another video about this guy, and no, not to go over again my terrible mistake which has left him at 79%, but the main thing is about his passive, which I've seen loads of people talking about. People mentioned it in the comments of the original showcase video, and I've seen people talking about it on Twitter. A lot of people memeing that this guy is the epitome of Dragon Ball fans can't read, like as a passive. But it's just the fact that his passive is really confusingly worded, right? So we'll start off with the easy stuff. We've already gone over this in the showcase, but he gets some key and some stats, right? He has a medium chance to crit. Then he gets extra 100% stats when attacking. And then he gets extra attack and chance to crit when attacking if the enemy's HP is 70% or less. More attack and crit chance if the enemy is 40% or less. He then gets 50% extra attack and launches an additional super when the target enemy has one of the status effects. All of that is fine. That is all worded as it would normally be in a normal passive. When attacking, if the enemy's HP is a certain amount or less, he gets a buff, whether it's the attack and the crit. The thing that has confused a lot of people, including myself when I first read it because of the way it's worded, is everything from this point onwards. So reduces damage received by 40%. So he says 40% damage reduction. Then he gets an additional damage reduction of 15% within the same turn before attacking an enemy whose HP is 70% or less, plus an additional damage reduction of 15% when within the same turn before attacking an enemy whose HP is 40% or less. And then he has the final blow thing. So because of the way this is worded, it makes it seem like he gets an additional 15% damage reduction if he's attacking an enemy whose HP is 70% or less, but he gets it before he attacks them. So like if you target an enemy who's on 70% HP or less, he then gets that buff before he attacks. I don't know if there's any other units in the game that work like this, but yeah, it's worded this way, but that's not what it means. So what it actually means, and we're going to try him out here for a little bit in this event and see how we get on, but what it actually means is that he has the 2 extra 15% damage reductions just all the time, right? But if he attacks an enemy who is 70% or less or 40% or less, then he only has that damage reduction before he attacks them. So when he attacks them, he loses that buff. But because of the earlier part of his passive, when he attacks the enemy on low HP, he gets extra attack and extra crit chance. So what this means is if he attacks an enemy who's on full HP, because he's not attacking an enemy on low health, he doesn't lose this damage reduction, even though the wording makes it seem like he only gets this damage reduction before attacking an enemy who's on low health. I don't really know exactly how they would word it, because like I say, I don't think there's any other units in the game that have a passive that works like this, but it is incredibly confusingly worded if that's what it actually means, right? Like realistically, the best way to have worded this would have been like, just have it listed as like reduce damage received by 70%, and then have like damage reduction minus 15% when attacking an enemy whose HP is low or whatever, right? Because of the way it's worded, it's like before attacking the enemy on low HP. It's just very, very confusing way of wording the passive. I definitely didn't read it as that when I first read it, because like I said, there's no other units that are really like this. So we're going to start off here. We're not in a super difficult event. Like, King Vegeta's not going to hit crazy hard here. He's not going to drop this guy below 70% HP. It's actually a really good rotation for this guy. We've got 6 links, the support from King Vegeta. So you can see he's only got 124k defense start of turn. He obviously gets 100% when attacking. And then, of course, he has the super attack effect to greatly raise attack and defense for 1 turn. But it's not going to put him to a particularly crazy amount, right? He's going to be going up to what? Like 240, and then he gets about 60 from the super attack effect. So about 300k-ish. King Vegeta supering, because there's a Vegeta on the rotation, does actually give some more support as well. But because he's not going to be attacking an enemy on low health, he should then keep the damage reduction. I mean, it's very difficult to be able to tell, unless, of course, he gets supered and we see how much damage he takes. Because he should tank normals for double-digit damage, even if they have lost a little bit of health here. But obviously, King Vegeta has his damage reduction. We're going to start off with fairly low attacks, 5.7, because, of course, we're not attacking an enemy on low health, so we're not getting that big attack buff. But in theory, we're now also not losing our damage reduction. So we tank the normal for double digits. How much are we going to take this for here? Because if we've only got 40% damage reduction and like 300k defense, this would probably do a decent bit of damage. So it did 10 damage. I guess I could get up their actual, like, we could take a look at how much damage they actually do with their super attack here, if we bring up their event info on Dokkan info. So let's get the challenge page up here. So let's see, where are we looking? The Dragon Ball Super, Blue Zone, and then Blue Gogeta. So Phase 1, Goku and Vegeta, they hit for 840k. So if we're saying that he has about 300k, I guess there was the support from King Vegeta as well. So if we're saying he has like 300 and, I don't know, let's do 330k defense. The super attack from them is 840 and they don't raise attack. So it'd be 840k minus the 40% base like damage reduction that we know he has. Would be 500k. Yeah, so if he was really only rocking about 300, even 350k defense on that turn, he would have taken 150k from the super, but he took double-digit damage. Because like I say, the way I originally read his passive is, if you're attacking an enemy who's on low HP, he has that damage reduction before he attacks. But that is not the case, and if he's not attacking an enemy who's on low HP, he just has that damage reduction and doesn't lose it. So I guess it kind of makes sense when you think about, like, if you sort of take a step back and look at the big picture about how they would design a unit's kit. I guess it kind of makes sense to have it so that if the enemy's on high HP, he's better defensively. If the enemy's on low HP, he deals more damage, but is less good defensively. Whereas if he did work in the sense that, like, he only got the damage reduction before attacking an enemy on low health, that would be really weird, because his start of turn defense isn't super good. So obviously him being a slot 1 unit is not really optimal. It would just be a really weird design for the unit. So obviously this does make him significantly better. And it kind of changes the playstyle with him, right? Like I was talking about in the original showcase, how you kind of want him to be on the second turn so that he's on the turn where the enemy's on low HP already. I guess to a certain extent you maybe do want that early on, because you do want to get the turn where he's able to attack an enemy on low health and actually deal damage and then get the finishing blow. Because obviously units that get a permanent buff from getting the finishing blow mechanic, are obviously nowhere near as good, especially as you get towards the end of the event, if they didn't get it. So ideally you do want him to be finishing off an enemy as early as possible, but obviously when I did the original showcase, we did one of the stages that had multiple enemies. I think we did the Family Kamehameha one, right? And literally he came in on turn 2 and Videl was basically dead, so he was able to finish her off straight away. And those extra stats are going to make a huge difference. So here we might actually be able to get him to get the kill on the next turn. The only problem is going to be, again, the fact that he's not really a slot 1 unit. So this is a really awkward turn for him to be in slot 1. But if I put Vegeta in slot 1, he's going to kill. King Vegeta might not, I guess. But King Vegeta is not really a slot 1 unit either, even with the orbs. And so I guess before attacking he is going to have the extra damage reduction, but still, that's not great, because if these guys hit him, even with 70% damage reduction, 158k defense start of turn is not particularly good. Although it would be interesting to see what he would actually take here. But he is going to get all of his attack buffs, so I suppose we might as well just roll the dice here and see if he can actually get the finishing blow. But yeah, see, 4,000, I don't know how much their normal attacks do. And the thing is, if they're on low HP, even though he hasn't attacked yet, does he lose the damage reduction before he attacks? I'm not sure. But we get the crit and finish them off. So at least we know now going into the next turn, we are going to have the finishing blow buff active, which will be good. So let's go ahead and... Do I want to fuse them here straight away? Probably. Don't want to transform you yet. So let's go for these. These. I guess we might as well transform these guys just because it makes it a little bit easier to then not get hit with a super attack on the wrong unit. Didn't realise the animations were on, but we can see the Fusion Reborn Gogeta Fusion. There he is. But yeah, this guy, like, even before they transform, they share 5 links with the Warrior in Black as well. He has a really good link set. And obviously, I'm using him on this Vegeta team. He gets a 200% lead from Vegeta. So, oh, does his super attack count as... I think his super attack counts as an unarmed, doesn't it? We can get the negation here from Gogeta. But now the problem is with this guy as well, is that now that we know his passive works the other way, it's now awkward. I was talking about how in the original showcase you could get stuck in a cycle where he's always coming onto a rotation where the enemy's on full health, which we thought was bad. But actually that's good, but the same can be said of like the opposite, where you can get stuck in a cycle where he's only ever appearing on a turn where the enemy's on low HP, which means he will be good for doing damage, but his defense is not going to be as good. Which of course, with a lot of these heroes units, that is probably their biggest like liability, the fact that a lot of them are just really not that good defensively. And so if this guy is losing a bunch of his damage reduction by attacking an enemy on low HP, then obviously he's then not going to be tanking very well, especially when it comes to taking a super attack or something, right? Whereas if he's attacking an enemy who's on full health, he's got his like post-super buff and everything, and then 70% damage reduction. That will allow him to survive at least some relatively big hits. Obviously he's not going to be living like Gogeta or Janemba's super attack, I don't think. There could be an optimal situation where he does, like a turn with a bunch of support, where he gets a double super, or even 3. But even then, he's not going to be tanking it for like double-digit damage, right? I don't think. Even in his best-case scenario, I don't think he's going to be tanking any of those supers for double digits. But it certainly makes him interesting, because like it makes him better than we thought. But then at the same time, like obviously he's not suddenly like insanely busted or anything. Okay, so he's only supering in slot 3. That's unusual. So yeah, with the finishing blow and every link except experienced fires, he's at 222k, which, I mean, that's not a lot. The finishing blow buff gives him the extra stats, but it also gives him a guaranteed additional super. So that means on super, from his passive, we get 100%, so he goes up to 440k. He's getting a greatly raised from his super, so it's going to be about 100k each time. So he's going to be at least bare minimum like 600k defense. But it's kind of counterintuitive, I guess, in a way, because by doing the extra super attacks, he's then also... by doing the extra supers, he's doing more damage. So the way it would work, I think, with the way these passives works with additionals, is if the enemy's just above 70% HP when he attacks, he won't lose any of his damage reduction or anything. But then if he hits them and drops them below 70% and then does an additional attack, he's then attacking an enemy who's below 70% HP. So he's going to do some more damage because one of his attack buffs is going to kick in. But then it's also going to proc the part of his passive where he loses some of his attack. So I'm not really sure how great that is for him overall. Let me turn this off here. I'm a bit worried about these guys at the end, so I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Although, I think I've never actually thought about it this way before. If you use their standby and then float them off, it means you never get to use it. Because it's only for 3 turns, but they won't be back for 3 turns, which is quite funny. So yeah, never use the physical trio active skill or standby and then put them in slot 3 if you're intending to actually use it. But let's see. So the enemy is going to be on, I mean, close to full health, right? This Vegeta hasn't really had much chance to stack, so he's not going to do a lot of damage. He's not going to drop Gogeta below 70% HP here. So we get to see Warrior in Black with none of his attack buffs, but obviously he's going to have his full defense here. He does get the extra super guaranteed because he has gotten the finishing blow. Just the problem with finishing blow characters in general is that you often do have to like jump through hoops to get them their additional attack, or to get the finishing blow. And if you don't get it, then obviously the unit is considerably worse a lot of the time. So yeah, 6.6. And it's not crazy damage wise, obviously, but he does lower attack, which is quite useful in this event, I guess. I got to 8.5. I mean, the greatly raised on super obviously is nice. We got to 30. So yeah, I think he's now procced one of his things, right? Which is why the attack stat jumped up by so much. So he's now only got, what, 65%, 55% damage reduction. But that's enough to tank the normals for double digits, especially against an enemy that can be attack lowered, that he just supered like 3 times. So, I mean, he certainly could still be a lot more useful than I thought he was originally. But one of the other big problems I guess you also have to think about is the fact that some of the toughest bosses in the meta at the moment are STR. So that's not ideal for him, right? I mean, obviously for Global we don't have Goku and Frieza yet, but like Bulma, Goku and Frieza, not ideal for this guy. Oh man, we can't get 3 AGL orbs for King Vegeta. He might get cooked here. I mean, Vegeta's going to do a lot of damage, the Super Saiyan Blue evolution, if he gets some additionals here. Plus, he has been attack lowered, I guess, and we know he isn't going to super King Vegeta, so he might be okay. But, yeah, he's certainly a lot better than I thought he was when I first read his kit. I know a lot of people read it the same way because it's very confusing. Like I say, a couple of people did point out in the comments that it doesn't work that way. Our boy Lotad, the World Tournament Grind King, who went through the Optimal World Tournament team with us, been in the streams a few times. I think he finished #1 in the last one, actually. But he made a post about it and explaining it and saying that he actually really likes this Warrior in Black Bardock. So, I mean, he is on a lot of teams. He's got a good link set. He definitely is more useful than I thought, but there are still certainly going to be situations where he's not going to be as good. And I mean, this is potentially one of them, right? Because how well will he... I mean, he's going to die, right? If he attacks here, Gogeta's not going to lose 70% of his HP, so we're going to have 70% damage reduction, in theory, unless Bardock attacks a whole bunch of times, which would be really bad. So... how much would he tank normals from this guy with 70% damage reduction, I wonder? Yes, he doesn't share as many links with Gogeta. The super attack is the first attack, so we can't action break it either, because Vegeta would have to get hit first anyway, so that's not going to work. I mean, I guess we might as well just see how much damage he's going to take. Let's go ahead and transform Vegeta. I mean, he probably is going to die here, but I'm intrigued to see how this plays out, because I think this will be a good indication of where he's still going to be a bit of a liability. Like, I'm putting him in this slot knowing full well that we're probably going to die. This isn't me, like, trying to win the event and making a stupid mistake. I'm genuinely curious to see what he's going to take, because in this kind of situation, like, if we didn't have a scouter up, and then maybe we'd put him in slot 3 and he eats a super, we're kind of going to see, like, where this could go wrong, right? Because we've started the phase with the enemy on full health, but Vegeta's going to attack and do a lot of damage. And normally as you get towards the end of the event, where the boss becomes the hardest, that's where you start pulling out the big guns and throwing out all these active skills and transformations and stuff like that. So it's going to be more and more likely that Bardock is going to be fighting an enemy who's on lower HP. I think we're good for now. in terms of him being above 70%. Yeah, only gets 6.4. But it all comes down to whether he gets a bunch of additionals and crits and all that stuff, right? If we jump up to 8.2. I mean, if he doesn't do any more attacks, I think we're good. Yes, he's still only on 9, so the other one still hasn't procced yet. So as long as he doesn't do another attack after this... Okay, well there you go. So now he jumps up to 14. So now he's lost 15% damage reduction. But he has supered like a bunch of times and lowered attack. So he's got fairly high defense and what, 55% damage reduction? But he's also got type disadvantage and no guard. So, but let's see. I mean, if it's not a crazy big number... 592k. I mean, you know, to be fair, he's probably going to die to these normals now, though, right? No, he takes double... okay. That is considerably better than I thought. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, nearly 600k, that's a lot of damage. But that's a physical unit with no guard. 55% damage reduction. Only had, what, 220k defense at the start of the turn. That's pretty good. Not gonna lie. I mean, I know Gogeta's not the hardest hitting boss in the game, but he's doing well over 1 million damage. I guess we could bring up the thing here again for the event. What's Blue Gogeta's super do? Oh, sorry, his super does 2.7 million damage. 2.7 million damage, and he raises attack on super, which I believe means it actually does more than 2.7, because 2.7 is the base damage that the database says his attack does, but then he also raises attack on super. So that means Bardock took a super attack that does over 2.5 million damage, plus add on the type disadvantage modifier as well, and he tanked that for just under 600k, which for a 79% physical heroes unit, that is actually really, really good. Damn, okay. Fair enough. That's the old, like, I wasn't familiar with your game meme. But damn, okay. That's pretty interesting. Makes me even more annoyed that mine's only going to be 79%. I'm not summoning on the banner again. Not for 2 copies of one specific unit that I'd already pulled like 8 extra times. I can't bring myself to do it, especially with like who knows what's coming up next. Potentially there's going to be a hype crossover Dokkan Fest. We know there's going to be a carnival banner in December. I'm not summoning anymore, but the fact that this guy is actually a lot better than I thought he was, and is the only one now that I technically don't have rainbowed, is a little bit disappointing. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Warrior in Black, now that we kind of know how his passive works properly, seeing him tanking the Blue Gogeta super attack for that kind of damage is actually pretty crazy. Obviously on a heroes team, we'd still be in trouble because we don't have enough HP, but using him on another team where we actually do have more than like 600k HP, you know, we ended up winning the run. So he is a lot better than we thought. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.